Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Richie Hicks Jr. Sports Podcast. I am your host, Richie, with my guy who is on the road, headed to hang out with friend of the show, Art, big Steeler fan. As you know, Zappy is a big Cowboy fan. As you know, they have a great lineage. 3 Super Bowls played between the two in the 70s, one in the 90s. Big week for the Steelers and Cowboys nations. My guy, Mr. Mike Zappy.
Yes, sir, man. You're talking about it. This is a game Art and I have been trying to get together for a long time. Of course, 2020 we had COVID, so we couldn't quite get together back then. 2016, I was still in California. 2012, I was in California. 2008, I was in Germany. So it's been one of those. We've been trying to get together for this game for such a long time, and we finally have that opportunity. And I'll tell you, after last night's game, I hope this is just a sign of what's coming this weekend in general with the rest of the games.
Well, I'll tell you this, Zappy. It's very rare that I call an interconference Week 5 game, overplay it and make it bigger than it is. But the truth is, I think this is a huge game because you have two teams that are trying to really punch through the bag and assert their identity. Because in the Steelers' case, they have had issues offensively that have hindered them, although they are off to a 3-1 start. And in your team's case, you're still going through some of the growing pains of adopting a new defensive coordinator and some of the self-inflicted stuff like we saw last week in a game that you were able to still win against my New York Giants. So most definitely a great amount of pressure because in the Steelers' case, you have 2 quarterbacks right now that next year there is a possibility that neither could be in Pittsburgh, but I do believe that the consensus is that Justin Fields is doing a good enough job. And it goes without saying that your Cowboys, led by Mike and Dak, this is definitely a year to do it or possibly look at certain changes, mainly in the head coaching realm because of the fact that Dak did get paid as well as CD. And then you, of course, have the incomparable Micah Parsons, who still has to get paid. And we're going to be hitting on that towards the latter part of the show. Definitely the game of the week, the Steelers and the Cowboys. We're going to start this up in the Mile High City. The Las Vegas Raiders at 2-2 taking on the Denver Broncos. In the Broncos case, long week for Raiders head coach Antonio Pierce, as in addition to an accusatory claim of a recruitment scandal going back to his college years, his top star, Davante Adams, has made it clear that he wants out of town. However, it does seem that there are enough partners where it won't be all that difficult for the Raiders to trade him, but he is currently nursing a hammy that could prevent a trade now. As the Broncos go, after an inept start, 2 wins against 2 quality opponents, they're now trending up, and they are 2-2. And starting to feel good about themselves. It seems like every time that Bo Nix makes a start, he looks a little better, and their defense is making enough plays to win some of these tough games. And that's what I'm seeing right now from these Denver Broncos. Short and sweet, I think the Broncos are going to win this game. Right now, I think they have a little better locker room chemistry. When you don't have to worry about Adams on the field, it does take away from some of the elements of the Raiders' offense and their full potential. I expect Brock Bowers to probably lead the team in targets, but I don't think it's going to be enough. I've got the Broncos winning this thing on the strength of their running game and on the strength of taking care of the football. I got them winning this 23-16 over the Raiders.
Yeah, when I look at it, it's a tale of 2 stories right now. The Broncos, like you said, first of all, going in and defeating a Tampa Bay team, no one saw that coming, and they didn't just win a low-scoring, hard defensive game. They punched them in the mouth, and they kept punching. And then you go over to New Jersey and take on Aaron Rodgers and the New York Jets, and yes, it was a weather game, but that's the kind of game that Aaron Rodgers is supposed to win, not the Denver Broncos. And lo and behold, they beat 2 quality opponents, 2 quality defenses, and that's something that's good that can carry over into a game like this when you're facing an opponent like the Las Vegas Raiders that now in my opinion, distractions everywhere. You mentioned the Antonio Pierce allegations going on right now from his college coaching days. You talk about Devontae Adams. Is he hurt? Is he not hurt? Hamstring. I think once he's traded, that hamstring all of a sudden is going to be perfectly fine, and we've seen it before. But with this Raiders team, there's just too many question marks right now. And when you have too many distractions like that, and you have your star playmaker on the offensive side of the ball, and I would say he's the best player on the team, that's not there. That could really hinder a lot of things. And you throw into the mix that this is a rivalry game. I like Denver more this week just because they're riding a better high than that of Las Vegas. I have a somewhat similar score. I think it's going to be 23-17, not 23-16. But, right now, I like Denver. I like what they're doing. Do I think it's enough to sneak them into the playoffs? No, not necessarily. But I do think they're going to be a team that's on the outside looking in and will be battling till week 18 to try to get that final wild card spot.
Defense still wins. Defense wins. Bo Nix is starting to show some leadership qualities, in my opinion, early into his career that I wasn't expecting in year one. And although their running back situation is not the best due to injury and due to workload issues, because you have one guy coming off a knee injury, you have another guy that some would question, is his body in tip-top condition to take those kind of everyday hits? But right now, the Broncos are playing tough football, and they're starting to adopt the attitude of their coach, Sean Payton. And this is a very important year for Sean Payton to assert every part of what he's bringing.
Yeah, and, on top of that, this is a team that moved on from the likes of Russell Wilson, moved on from the likes of Jerry Jeudy. So you talk about a team that gave up talent, but they're playing better football. And the team is definitely responding to that of Sean Payton. And I think Sean Payton knows what he's doing with Bo Nix. And, I got to give it to Bo Nix. He was a 7-year starter in college between Auburn and Oregon. And while he didn't have that NFL playing time, he had a lot of playing time, a lot of time to grow. And it's showing on the field. It's showing on the field. And quite frankly, I could say that between all the rookie quarterbacks, he's probably the second best right now. Caleb Williams is still trying to get his feet wet. Drake May still not given the keys to the car yet. Jaden Daniels is clearly hands down. He had the greatest first month of in NFL history, whether it was by a rookie or a veteran. So that's got to say something about the kind of year he's having. So yeah, I think Bo Nix is moving along just well. And the big key with him is he's not making those mistakes that we thought he would be making. He's just playing football and he's managing the game.
Yeah, I like what I'm seeing out of Denver. And, you talked about some big name players, some via the contract and some via the draft capital, where they took them, like Jeudy, draft capital, like Russ with the big money deal. I think it's gotten to a point where sometimes if guys get too used to losing, they don't necessarily come back training camp after training camp with the same good energy. And I think that right now the Broncos are just trying to reset themselves and build a winning culture. And after 5 weeks, they're probably going to be 3-2. And to your point, very much in the thick of the AFC wildcard picture, whereas earlier in the year, I don't think too many people had them picking out of the top 5 or 6. So they definitely have something to feel good about right now.
Absolutely.
We're going to take it over to Santa Clara. Arizona Cardinals at 1-3 do get some good news. They're going to be getting back their very good tight end, Trey McBride, who is just getting started, coming off of a pretty good rookie campaign. And the 49ers, honestly, are just trying to get some traction. They won in week 4. They won in week 1, and they had 2 losses in between. They're nursing all kinds of injuries. Madden curse in full effect with Run CMC. Nobody knows when he's going to return, if at all, this year. You got guys like Debo that are going to try to soldier on, guys like Kittle that are hurting but soldiering on. And this is a game that the 49ers need. When you come in with the lofty expectations of being a Super Bowl contender, nobody wants to hear about injuries. Nobody wants to hear about adversities. They want to hear about, you guys are a deep team. John Lynch gave you guys depth at each and every position. Go out and win a divisional game. Now, as the Cardinals go, in order to pull off the upset, Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to have to give the 49ers something to consistently worry about so that the Cardinals can get cooking in the running game, whether it be Kyler Murray, calling his own number if his reads aren't open right away, or whether it's the running back by committee that gradually the Cardinals are trying to do, being that Trey Benson is very young, very raw, but they're still trying to build him into, a functional everyday player right now on the backup level. So, Jonathan Gannon, I thought last year he did a nice job of beating teams that were better than him. He had a win over the Cowboys. He had a win over the Eagles. A couple of wins to feel good about in a division that he was very familiar with doing X amount of years of service there. But the one thing that I've seen from Kyler Murray, although it's not necessarily equating to the record you want, is that he's showing a fond maturity of being a leader now and, putting the time in, making football his main focus. And I do believe that this is a team that, although they're 1-3, they're not discouraged. And I do believe that they're going to give the 49ers all they can handle, even on the road. And this will not be a gimme by any means.
Yeah, I look at this as to me, this is the kind of game that but 49ers fans, the organization, this is the kind of game where they need Brandon Ayuk to finally show up. You got paid that contract, and instead of going out and putting up the numbers to duplicate what you did last year, it's been more of hassles with him on the field, at the practice field, complaining about having to change his shorts, like so many different things. And I think it's time for him to put up or shut up. And, this offense, while Shaq Masons have been doing a great job in CMC's absence, I feel like they're still trying to find themselves. And, quite frankly, this is the kind of game that I think can actually hurt them, especially like you mentioned, Jonathan Gannon. I think in this game on Sunday, it's Jonathan Gannon is going to be the X factor. And because of his ability to beat these kinds of teams, because of his defensive mindset, we've seen him do it year in and year out, whether he was the DC over in Philly or as the head coach with the Arizona Cardinals. So I think, if the 49ers come out sleeping whatsoever, I think the Arizona Cardinals can shock them. I really do. And, I'm going to go out on the limb and say that Arizona's going to win this game. I truly believe that Arizona's going to come out on top. I think they're going to come out, punch early, and then they're going to, like you said, resort to the run game with a mixture of James Conner and Trey Benson.
What's up, Coco? Thanks for joining. Hey, y'all. I like the thumbnail. Yeah, thank you. Shouts out Mr. Nast. He put this together for us. Good stuff. Check out the Basement Show with Mr. Nast. They got a great array of all kinds of different stuff, ranging from sports to ladies' night, trivia night, a few things in between. So shouts out to them. Thanks for joining, Coco. Zap, to piggyback off of what you're saying, it's definitely not out of the realm of possibility that the Cardinals can upset the Niners. The Cardinals are gradually becoming a competitive team. However, I'm going to differ from you here. I think that Brock Purdy is going to make enough throws to get it done, although I don't think it'll be easy. I've got the Niners winning by a touchdown. Actually, I'm going to shorten that to a 4-point spread. 24-20 in favor of the 49ers, but your prediction by no means would shock me.
It's funny you say 24-20 because my prediction is actually 27-24 with the Cardinals scoring a late touchdown to win that game.
I mean, certainly not out of the realm of possibility. Yeah.
And I just find it hard to see the Niners scoring more than 24 points. So the fact that we both have them scoring 24, it's funny to me. But I mean, the Niners. This is a game the Niners should win. It really is a game they should win. Just like the Giants-Cowboys game, that was a game Dallas was supposed to win. But I was saying upset alert. I was worried about Dallas. But this is another one of those games. I'm worried about the Niners and how they are going to come out and play, and especially after how we saw them play against the Rams where they blew a big lead to lose at the score of 27-24. So, and it's division football. So, of course, the Niners wouldn't surprise me if they win, but my heart's telling me on this one to go with the upset, so that's what I'm doing.
No, I like it. I like it because it really could go either way. And the funny thing is, we're like minded in the sense of the 49ers' final score. So you got the Cardinals winning by a late touchdown, and I've got the 49ers winning by a late stop because obviously, in my case, a 4-point spread, you can't win or tie by a field goal. Before we move it along, since Coco's hanging with us and watching the show, we're not covering your team tonight. We did that on part one. But Coco, I did predict that your New England Patriots will be getting their second win of the year, defeating the Miami Dolphins. So definitely give that a watch if you haven't already. But yes, I did pick your Patriots. So just because I like to have a lot of fun with you and Brett, don't think for a second that I'm not seeing some improvement in young head coach Gerard Mayo overtaking a program from a legend, which is a very challenging task and not the most enviable one. But I think Gerard Mayo, he was a hell of a player. I felt that if he would have played a couple more years, he probably would have been a Hall of Famer. But he is a very good coach. And the New England Patriots, although it's not showing up in the win-loss column all the way, have a bright future because they are starting to build this team into the direction and the vision of Coach Mayo. And I think Mayo is doing it just fine. Green Bay Packers. Sorry, Zap, go ahead.
I was going to say, I'm right there with Richie there, Coco. I also took the Dolphins to win. I took them to win in a snooze fest. My score was 16-6, but nevertheless, a victory in the NFL is a victory. And, I think the Patriots is going to have more things to feel good about than bad.
All right. We both taking the Patriots there. Our man, John Olson, is going to be in attendance. The Green Bay Packers 2-2 heading to Los Angeles, taking on the 1-3 Rams. The Rams have been crippled with injuries. Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, just to name a couple, but that is possibly the best wide receiver duo in football, definitely in the conversation amongst the top five. Packers have a weird stat here. Oddly, are 2-0 with backup Malik Willis, are 0-2 with starter Jordan Love. That has a big reflection of the opponents, not necessarily the quarterbacks and the defensive performances in those four different games. Jordan Love, in my opinion, as the game was progressing, as they had come up just short in a comeback attempt against the Vikings, I think the rust is officially off now. I think, he got hit a few times, definitely labored a little. He admitted he's not 100%, but he played well enough to win after, getting off to a crummy start. And, you got to praise Minnesota. Minnesota really put a working on Green Bay's defense. I expect the Packers defense to win at the point of attack here. Xavier McKinney in the early going, former New York Giant, leading the league in interceptions. He has definitely got a nose for the football this year, especially. I think that Green Bay scheme is accentuating his ability to be a ball hawk. They have a nice little secondary there. Jair Alexander may have lost a step, but is still amongst the best at his position. And although they lost Aaron Jones, I think this is the kind of ball game where Josh Jacobs could eat, setting up the play action pass. And what I like about this Green Bay receiving room is that you don't necessarily have your alpha dog 1A. I think a week to week that varies. But they have a nice collaboration of young talent and guys who very much so are becoming young masters of the route tree. So I expect Green Bay to win this thing comfortably. I'm going to go Green Bay Packers 30, Los Angeles Rams 20, and I think the Packers are going to record 5 sacks and 2 interceptions.
Yeah, what I'm going to look at is with the Packers team is I look at how the game ended and not so much how it started. Yes, we're well aware that the Vikings jumped on 28-0, but they responded to the point where they almost came back and won that game. And I look at it as, yes, while they did lose, I think they gained a lot more from it. They learned more about Jordan Love and his ability to lead them from behind, lead the passing game especially, and I thought he did great in that. I like what the Packers are doing right now, and although they are 0-2 with Jordan Love as their starter, like you said, they could easily be 2-0 with Jordan Love as their starter and 2-0 with Malik Willis. So I'm not going to take anything away from Jordan Love. I like what this team's doing. I like what this team is doing with Josh Jacobs. And like you said, their secondary, I like their secondary. I like what they have in Rashawn Gary. I like their defense a lot. And then when you flip it to the other side with the Rams, oh, man, there's just so much going wrong with them. It's, you talk about the receivers, you talk about their right guard is lost for the season, you talk about the players on the defensive side that they have lost right now. It's just too much that I don't think there's enough weapons for Matthew Stafford, if any at all, with the exception of Kyron Williams, that can really get it done to be able to withstand what could possibly be a hurricane of offense from the Green Bay Packers. It is a home game, but what we have seen as of late, a home game for the Rams is actually a home game for the opposing team, because unless if you're a bad team that doesn't travel well, the Rams Stadium is going to be filled with the opposing team's colors. We saw with the 49ers, it was a sea of red. I think we're going to see a sea of Green Bay Packer fans at that game as well. Give me Green Bay to go into Los Angeles. Give me Green Bay to go into Los Angeles, wish John's daughter, Shanna, a happy birthday. Give them, that entire family, an exclamation to a great weekend. And they will not just win, they are going to win big time, 30-13. Jordan Love has himself a big game. Josh Jacobs gets over 100 yards rushing, and Green Bay walks out of LA feeling really good about themselves.
Yeah, we're in the same stratosphere of score. I do want to add that my 20 points, I feel that that's a late score in garbage time for the Rams. I do consider the Packers a Super Bowl contender. I think it's similar to last year. They've had a couple of adverse situations that are slowing down their fast start. But 2-2 after the month of September, and even though you lose to your division rival who is undefeated, you scared them at the end of the game, and I think that's going to be good momentum moving forward for the Packers as they get into approaching, before you know it, the midway point of the season. The Pacific Northwest is where our next one is going to be. My New York Giants at 1-3, taking on the Seattle Seahawks at 3-1. Rookie sensation Malik Neighbors and veteran running back Devin Singletary will not be active for Big Blue. The offense is already struggling to produce touchdowns even with them. In order for the Giants to pull off the upset, you're going to need great consistent play from Jalen Hyatt as well as Darius Slayton. Wan'Dale Robinson has been a pleasure to watch this year. Kind of an extension of his rookie year, because year two was spent in a lot of training rooms getting his lower extremities right. As the Seahawks go, I feel that they're going to pound the football early and often against the Giants. I think they're going to lead to pretty decent runs, and I think it's going to open up things for Geno Smith to kind of dissect that Giants secondary, which is also hurt. You're missing Drew Phillips and Adoree Jackson as well. They haven't been ruled out, but they are dinged up even if they play. You got DK Metcalf. You got Jackson Smith and Jigba. You got Tyler Lockett. And you got the dual running back threat of Kenneth Walker as well as Zach Charbonnet. I would love for the Giants to go in there and pull an upset, but I have to be realistic. I think we're going in way too undermanned. With Neighbors, I give us a punching shot. Without him, I'm looking at a 10-point defeat. I've got the Seattle Seahawks winning this thing 27-17. I think the Giants, similar to the Rams, will get a score late that doesn't reflect the domination of the game. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't feel good about this one at all.
Yeah, you're sticking with the theme of late scores, so I'll give my score prediction first. I also have Seattle scoring 27, but I have the Giants scoring 10. So it comes down to that late score you're talking about. Look, this Giants team, not having Devin Singletary is one thing, but not having the young superstar and Malik Neighbors out there after we saw him give up his body to make attempt to make a catch that resulted in him slamming his head face first into the ground was not a pretty sight. And now, he's out because of concussion protocol, which you don't want. I mean, we see what's going on with Tua. You don't want to see it with your young star who is probably the face of your offense moving forward, the guy you're going to build your team around. And as far as Seattle goes, before Kirk Cousins' big night last night of 509 yards passing, Geno Smith was leading the league in passing after 4 weeks. So, this team, I think they have a very complete offense where they can run the ball and pass the ball. They just ran into a juggernaut last week of Detroit on Monday night where they couldn't figure out who to stop. I mean, even Amon-Ra St. Brown looked like Joe Montana out there throwing that little lob pass to Jared Goff. But, nevertheless, I like Seattle in this game. I think they're the better team. I think they have more weapons. When you talk about Seattle's defense, Weatherspoon, he can cover Darius Slayton or Hyatt, or I don't think he'll cover Wan'Dale Robinson because he doesn't really go into the slot much. But like you said, who's going to be that guy that's going to step up? I think Wan'Dale's going to get his. I think he's going to come out of the game with about 10 catches. But you need the big play from Jalen Hyatt. We haven't seen him stretch the field yet. We need Darius Slayton to either put up numbers for the New York Giants to possibly win the game, or B, to be trade bait by the November 5th deadline, because I think Darius Slayton is one of the receivers that will be traded. But like I said, I like Seattle more. I like their direction a lot more than I like the Giants right now. You know, I know you guys play well in Seattle, but I can't see it this time around. Just with you're missing too many key players at key positions. Give me Seattle 27, New York Giants 10.
Before we move it along to the Cowboys and the Steelers, I did want to make a mention, something that I read on Heavy on Giants. I thought it was kind of comical. However, when you think about the figures, it actually isn't as crazy as it sounds. It was pitched that the New York Giants, if they continue to fall out of the race, and with obviously not being close to being a contending team, are they tempted to trade their best defensive player, Dexter Lawrence, to a team that could be contending for a Super Bowl, that team being the Minnesota Vikings? This is where it gets interesting. We all know that Sam Darnold has been an awesome story in the offseason, in the young season, and J.J. McCarthy is healing off a knee injury. But regardless of how well Sam Darnold plays this year, his second year in Minnesota is very murky, if he even gets a second year. Of course, the team could franchise him, bring him back. This article suggested that the Minnesota Vikings make a sacrifice of giving up a quarterback who has been winning consistently right now because of all the turmoil in New York at that position. They, in turn, complete their defense by acquiring Dexter Lawrence and have J.J. McCarthy ready to play next year. Now, the question is, who would be the quarterback for the Vikings right now? This was not added into the trade, but just something that I thought of off the top of my brain. Would the Vikings really be set back in a massive way if they were to acquire Drew Lock in this deal as well? I don't want this trade to happen, by the way. I'm just pitching what I read.
Yeah. Didn't you guys just re-sign Dexter Lawrence to a very, very nice contract?
Well, that's the caveat. The Vikings have up to $64 million in cap space going into next year, where they would be able to facilitate that kind of contract.
But how much of that was a guarantee that you guys are paying for? That's the big question.
Well, the thing here that makes it interesting is that with Sam Darnold playing his way into the $30 million a year range, yes, I'm actually saying that, the Vikings know that they don't have money for him next year. You could always franchise him and not hurt it too bad but personally, I think McCarthy will be back next year, and I think Sam Darnold is going to work his way into a good contract. I think the suggestion of making the trade is the Vikings avoiding not getting anything for Darnold while also completing one side of their defense, one side of their team, I should say.
I can't see the New York Giants, who are clearly a team rebuilding, who clearly chose to build their defense around Dexter Lawrence, trading away their best defensive player and taking away from that defensive front. Because when you look at the New York Giants defense, the defensive front is and
Zap, you're breaking up just a bit. I'm going to give you a second. Zappy, you're breaking up a little. Say something if you don't mind real quick. You're back now. Okay.
So as I was saying, to sit there and trade away Dexter when you guys have something building for a one-year rental in Sam Darnold, there's no guarantee that he would even re-sign with the Giants. I don't think the Vikings are going to do it because they have something special. And, you know, if the Vikings go on and win the Super Bowl, I still don't think Sam Darnold is back as a Viking because they drafted J.J. McCarthy. So no matter what, this is a win-win for Sam Darnold. He's going to get his contract somewhere. And for the Vikings, you know, they have the guy, the heir apparent, waiting. He suffered an injury, which made things easier for Sam Darnold. But for the New York Giants, I just can't see a world where they trade away their best defensive player for a one-year rental and a hope that he signs a good contract to stay there. I think the New York Giants are better suited to go into the draft, figure out where you're going to be drafting from, and who is it Who's the guy that Jets are going to want? Well, first of all, Brian Dable will be back, and if he is it going to be Jalen Milroe? Is it going to be Shador Sanders? Is it going to be Carson Beck? Or
the other part of this also is that it's not just Sam Darnold. They were suggesting that this would be multiple first rounders because the Vikings see this as, oh shit, we could complete our team on the defense. So, listen, this trade ain't going to happen. This is a total hypothetical, but the thing is, with no guarantee that the Giants are going to get their quarterback of the future or a guy who fits the system, so to speak, could Darnold potentially be the stopgap? And maybe, just maybe, the Arch Manning thing can come to fruition, being that you don't have to feel rushed into that. Just something to think about. But no, I don't see the New York Giants trading Dexter Lawrence. I don't.
No, I don't. And then when you talk about the system and you talk about a Brian Dable system, to me, Sam Darnold does not fit that system. I will say that. I don't think he fits that system. Brian Dable relies heavily on quarterbacks that can run outside the pocket. I mean, as much as we make, or as much as I make fun of Daniel Jones, the one thing we do know about him is he is an athletic quarterback, and he can move when he needs to. We see what Josh Allen, what he was like when Brian Dable was the offensive coordinator over there. That's why I don't think Sam Darnold just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And if I'm Sam Darnold's agent, I'm saying, hell no. I don't care what is going on. You're not staying there. That to me sets him back rather than moving forward. But the possibility that could happen, though, is maybe Sam Darnold does enough that, hey, Minnesota, what if we call the Giants and trade J.J. McCarthy to you? That's something I could see happening now.
That would be interesting as well because of the fact that they had the opportunity to draft him but chose to go with Malik Neighbors. Now, last thought on the Dexter Lawrence suggestion, and no, I don't think it's going to come to fruition, that would really be a mindfuck to so many Giant fans because previously our two great nose tackles, Linval Joseph as well as Dalvin Tomlinson, both ended up in Minnesota. That would be crazy.
Oh, yeah, no kidding. I didn't even think about that part. Yeah, no, I think it's just a guy that's, a New York Giants beat writer or fan, whatever you want to call him, that realizes the season is pretty much a loss. And, hey, let's start coming up with these scenarios to keep the Giants fans talking and give them hope for something, And, yeah, we saw what you guys had to give up for Brian Burns. I think if you trade a Dexter Lawrence, you're going to get a lot more in return. And, yes, it would, if anything, it would help set them up for the future quarterback to trade up. I don't think it's going to be Arch Manning. As we already know, Arch Manning is not coming out in 2026. He's going to finish off his career at Texas, to graduate from the university. So the Giants, they're not going to sit there and forfeit the next 3 seasons in hopes of landing an Arch Manning. I don't see it whatsoever. I think the Giants are better suited. If they're going to trade for a quarterback, we've seen it happen before multiple times where a quarterback that was a first-round pick the previous year gets traded to a new team because they like something else. Could JJ get traded to the Giants? Absolutely. I've said it many times. I think that JJ McCarthy had New York Giants written all over him. I think that uniform was meant for him. I think he was meant for Brian Dable. So if the Vikings sit there and decide that Sam Darnold is their future, if they have themselves a deep run, I wouldn't surprise me one bit where they call New York and say, hey, we'll give you J.J. McCarthy. How about a conditional second, or just give us a second-round pick, and maybe it's a first. I don't know. But, no, I think you have a better chance of trading for a J.J. than you do for a Sam Darnold, and that's just me being completely honest with you because of the simple fact that, first rounds are not, cool. If you trade Dexter Lawrence there, you're looking at a pick that's probably going to be in the late 20s. It's not worth it, in my opinion. It's not worth it for the New York Giants, a team that is trying to build for the now. I mean, not this year, but they're not too far off when you really look at them. They have the right pieces in certain places. Now you just need to get that field general and go get yourself a quality running back and go continue building that defense where, hey, the New York Giants may just be a couple years away. That's the way I look at it with this team. You give me J.J. McCarthy, I'll talk with you then. I will then consider trading Dexter Lawrence to you. But if you're going to sit there and say Sam Darnold 1-year rental in hopes that he signs with me, absolutely not.
No, it's interesting on a couple of different facets because in the Vikings case, then they have to say to themselves, do we want to pay damn near $30 million a year for the revitalized Sam Darnold, or do we want to keep JJ on his rookie deal? So there's so much to unpack with that Minnesota situation, but it's a good problem to have because you have two good quarterbacks.
Problem. It's a great problem to have, and you know what? The ball would be in their court where they can decide. And I'm sure Sam Darnold, as we see the quarterback contracts continue to grow, as now Dak Prescott topped the $60 million a year. You know, we're going to see guys top 62.5 in next offseason to 65 when Patty gets his new deal, where Sam Darnold might get 35 to 40, but that's still a bargain contract for the Minnesota Vikings where they don't necessarily even need to trade anybody. They could sit there and hold on to both of them because JJ is on his rookie deal and they have the rights to him. That's just how it is in the NFL. If they had the rights to him, we could very easily see ourselves a Green Bay Packers situation where he's going to sit for a couple of years. We see what's happening with Michael Penix. He's going to sit for a few years, and it might not be a bad thing.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that all plays out. But I thought it was interesting, and as you see, it gave us a decent conversation out of it. Sunday Night Football, game of the week. The Dallas Cowboys, your Dallas Cowboys, are traveling to the Steel City to take on the 3-1 Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers suffered their first defeat at the hands of the Colts in a game where, oddly, their defense couldn't seem to make the stop when they absolutely needed it. And their offense couldn't get the yard or two that they needed to keep critical drives going, whether it be the difference between field goal attempts or punting or just flat out getting a first down that they absolutely had to have. The Cowboys defeated the Giants last week 20-15. We spoke about off air as well as on it. Giants outgained them, or at least penalized, had better third down percentage on conversions, yet still could not punch the ball in the end zone. Dallas was able to overcome some of their own self-inflicted stuff. I don't see the Cowboys having a second consecutive game where it's that self-inflicted, but they are playing a better opponent. They are playing a better defense. What's in Dallas's advantage? For one, they're not making this trip in December. Earlier in the year, you have a better chance of stealing one on the road against Pittsburgh. The Cowboys' defense does have to be a little more consistent, though. And I do expect Micah Parsons to show up in this one, and I do think that regardless of the result, he is going to make his presence felt. This is going to be a very close game, I believe.
Well, let me just stop you right there. Dallas's defense needs a miracle this weekend because Micah Parsons is out. DeMarcus Lawrence is out. Trayvon Diggs got hurt in practice yesterday.
Hold on. Parsons, that was worse than I thought?
Yeah, he's been rolled out. He might be, as of right now, it's a week-to-week, but I don't see him coming back till after the bye week. We have Detroit next week. I don't think he'll be ready for Detroit.
I didn't realize that it was as bad. I thought it was not as bad.
No, yeah, he's rolled out. So you don't have your 2-star edge rushers out there. Brandon Cooks is not playing because after the New York Giants game, he had a procedure done on his knee that resulted in an infection on it. So he's looking like he's for sure out this week. He's probably going to be out a few weeks as well. Dallas is, if there's ever a time that Dak needs to go out there and lead this team, it starts this weekend because, well, first of all, for Dallas, they now enter murderer's row of their schedule. You have Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh this week, then you have Detroit at home next week. Then luckily you get the bye week and hopefully get a couple players back. There's rumors about them trading for an Amari Cooper. If it happens, it'll happen after the Detroit game, which will give them 2 weeks to actually get ready for San Francisco. But no, right now, this Dallas defensive team, not having your star player, your player that can line up at almost every position, I think it's going to hurt Dallas. And as far as Pittsburgh goes, they lost their guard for the season. Najee Harris has been hurt. Jalen Warren does come back this week. They also need another receiver out there. Justin Fields has been slowly finding himself. We saw them get that nice burst in the second half against the Colts, and this is the kind of game where I think the guy that I'm most worried about on the field is actually Justin Fields. And that's, when I say I'm worried about him, I'm not worried about Najee Harris or Jalen Warren. I'm worried about how are we going to stop Justin Fields and keep him in the pocket now that we don't have Micah out there. So I think this is going to be a very low-scoring game. This is hands down the best defense we're seeing this season. And when we only have two offensive weapons to go out there, I mean, Minka Fitzpatrick is going to follow Jake Ferguson around. They have the cornerbacks that are going to go and they're going to shadow CeeDee Lamb. So this is a game where you need a Jalen Tolbert, you need a Jalen Brooks, and you need a Ryan Flournoy to come out and have himself that welcome to the NFL game. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I actually think Pittsburgh's going to win this game this weekend just because of the simple fact that we are missing too much on both sides of the ball.
I think the great equalizer, if you guys are able to at least play ball just north of the 50, is the fact that you have a kicker who, has an outrageous range. Aubrey can kick some deep field goals. This is the kind of game where what worries me if I'm a Dallas fan is, yes, I get it. Your rush defense stepped up against the Giants, but part of me wonders if that was the play calling on the Giants' part or was it Dallas? It was a little bit of both. Even with some of the injuries in that running back room, they are getting Warren back. I think Patterson's still dinged. Harris is there. I'm a little concerned that the Steelers might have a better day on the ground than people see coming. And that will open it up for guys downfield. And Dallas is going to need one of those like unsung hero kind of games from a couple of different places, but I don't think it's out of the question.
Yeah, and the other reason after the Giants game, the first thing I went on the Beast page and I said, no Cowboy fan should be happy about this victory whatsoever. I got feedback back from Cowboys fans saying, whatever, we beat a rival, this is a victory, a win's a win, blah, blah, blah. Yes, a win is a win, but when you only force the New York Giants to punt one time that entire game, the Giants were able to move that ball up and down the field the entire game. We just stopped you. We had a bend but don't break type of defense. Of course, we know about the missed face mask on that first drive. That could have definitely changed the whole complexion of the game. But now we're talking about a Mike Tomlin coach team who, in my opinion, Mike Tomlin is hands down one of the best coaches in the NFL/NFL history. And this is the kind of game that Mike Tomlin lives for. He lives for these kind of games where, hey, offense, you go out there, you get me 17 points, I promise you my defense will do enough to win. And this is that kind of game. This is going to be an old school style of football game. And in the NFL, if you can run the ball and stop the run, 75% of the time, you're going to win. And quite frankly, Dallas has not been able to run the ball with anybody and cannot stop. I don't like this matchup whatsoever this week. I really don't. Yeah, the weather is a blessing because if it wasn't December, I would hate this game even more. But the way I look at it, man, I'm looking at this Pittsburgh Steelers team to win this game. I said give them 17 points and they win. I'm going to give them their 17. I think it's going to be a low-scoring football game, 17-13 Pittsburgh.
I'm close in score to you. I'm going 20-13 Pittsburgh. Yeah, I think the Cowboys are going to have a rough go getting in the end zone. However, if Justin Fields makes a mistake early and if Dallas's defense makes the surprising turnover, pick six, anything of that nature, I don't think even with Pittsburgh's defense, if Dallas is able to at minimum take care of the football, I don't think that they're going to be outclassed to the point of embarrassment because, like I said, that natural equalizer is your kicker. We shall see how it plays. Monday Night Football, we've got the New Orleans Saints traveling to Arrowhead to take on the defending world champion Kansas City Chiefs, who are 4-0. They have been doing it in different forms and fashions. Patrick Mahomes' turnovers are somewhat up. It hasn't all been pretty. They are dealing with many an injury, whether it's Pacheco, whether it's Rashee Rice. They have been linked to Devontae Adams. They have been linked to Amari Cooper as well. They have been linked to some of the bigger names and even some of the smaller names, like a guy like a Slate, other guys that could be on the move. The Honey Badger plays his former team here, and the Honey Badger's current team, in my opinion, this is a very important character-defining game because to start off 2-0 and then to get 3 consecutive defeats could really change the morale in that locker room, especially when you had a depleted Philly team that you were not able to dispose of. And then you get beat in heartbreaking fashion in Atlanta. This is a game that the Saints have to have, but this is a game that they will not have. I like the Chiefs, and I actually like them kind of big. Derek Carr has had mixed success, good, bad, against this team, being with the Raiders as long as he has. But I'm not feeling good about this. I think they're going to shut down Alvin Kamara, and they're going to force Carr to throw a little too much, a little too imbalanced. And while you might have that one signature play of Shaheed getting one over the top of the defense, I still think the Chiefs, this is one of those get-right games where they are going to show up. I think Steve Spagnuolo's defense is going to hit Derek Carr with all kinds of exotic packages, even with some injuries all over the place. Chiefs by 10. Not a complete blowout, but once again, late score by the Saints that might mask the dominance. I'm going 34-24 in favor of the Kansas City Chiefs, but I think that the Saints score for the 24 points will be late.
Yeah, the Chiefs right now, you lose Rashee Rice for the season. You already had Hollywood Brown out for the season. Travis Kelce finally showed up last week. The one thing they have going for them is they have an incredible defense. Kareem Hunt, bringing him back, I think has actually been such a good thing for him, for his career, and for the Kansas City Chiefs. Because really, if it wasn't for his little slip-up, he would have never left that organization. Let's get that straight. And I think him playing with Patrick Mahomes is only going to help him. I see this Chiefs team that is going to rely more on the run game than the pass game until they get it right, until Juju Smith gets his feet wet. And I think the guy that they're actually going to trade for is not going to be Amari, Devontae, Darius Slayton, or another big name. I think the guy that they go for is actually going to be a Deontay Johnson. I think he would fit perfectly with Patrick Mahomes. I really do. And because he's the guy that he can catch the ball. His biggest issue has always been scoring touchdowns, but he'll still get you 100 catches a year. But yeah, and I look at the Saints team. Yes, they had two incredible games to start off the year, dropping 40-plus points on the Panthers, dropping 40-plus points on the Cowboys. And then they let one slip against Philly. And then they let Captain Kirk, Mr. Comeback of 2024, get one on them for a late field goal. I mean, two teams are trending in different directions right now. And we know right now with the Kansas City Chiefs, if they had any other quarterback, I wouldn't feel comfortable with their 4-0 record. But no matter how bad Patrick Mahomes has been playing this year with his 6 turnovers, he's still Patrick Mahomes. And when it matters most, he's going to show up, he's going to lead his team down the field, and he's going to win a game. And when I look at this game on Monday night, I think this New Orleans Saints team, if they don't come out early, they're going to be lost early. And, I think this is a real big game for two players, Kareem Hunt and Travis Kelce. I look at them being Kelce having his first 100-yard game of the season, but I think Kareem Hunt's going to go out there and rush for 88 yards and 2 touchdowns. I think he's going to make his presence felt, and then that defense is going to force an early turnover that is just going to take the momentum out of New Orleans for the rest of the game. I, too, have the Chiefs winning a big one. I have them winning 31-13. I just think that this Chiefs team is focused right now. They should have lost last week against the Chargers, but yet again, this is a Super Bowl winning team that defined adversity last year. They looked at it right in the eyes, defeated it, and now this year they can overcome anything. And I think this is going to be just a nice game for them to get through and continue moving forward.
What I find interesting is when Isaiah Pacheco fully heals from the broken fibula, he and Kareem Hunt are going to be quite a devastating 1-2 punch, similar to what they had cooking the first time that Hunt was in town over there. So it's going to be very interesting to see how they formulate and grow together as a team, because one thing that you could bank on is the combination of Steve Spagnuolo and head coach Andy Reid are always going to have their boys prepared and ready for anything, and they do constantly overcome serious obstacles. Before we get out of here, I did want to...
Yeah, man.
Before we get out of here, I did want to shine some...
I was going to say real quick that... you talk about Kareem. Look what he did for Nick Chubb. That was their thunder and lightning. And now, like you said, Isaiah Pacheco, a different style of running back. And if you have Kareem Hunt as your primary third down back, Clyde Edwards-Helaire obviously has not worked out since his rookie year. I mean, that's just, to me, I think Kareem Hunt has something to prove, and I really do think he's going to prove it. And once they get Pacheco back, gosh, man, how are you going to slow him down? And then if they go trade for someone, whew. But anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
No, you're okay, bud. We don't have the little mic feeds in front of us that kind of tip us off when one of us are about to speak. So the fact that we haven't interrupted each other more in the show is a minor miracle. I want to revisit one thing you said on our part one show, and then I'm going to move it along to a final thought here. You did mention that Tyreek Hill going back to Kansas City is not out of the question because of just the fire that is the Miami Dolphins right now. So just wanted to re-mention to the viewers that you did make a mention of it. I thought about it. I said, you know what, Zap? Crazier things have happened, and in the grand scheme of things, it ain't that crazy. However, he did choose Florida for the tax-free breaks, a lot of tax breaks that you get being an athlete in Florida. So stay tuned with that. And, after his little skirmish with the authorities, he himself might be in the mood for a completely new start as well. So time will reveal that, because I think that while Mike McDaniel should not be blamed for the Dolphins' ineptitude right now, even prior to, with a healthy Tua, people were questioning if he was the man that can get them to the next level anyway. So that's something to monitor. Final thought of the night on my end, baseball related. Pete Alonso hit the biggest home run of his career. And when you play for the New York Mets, the little brother, so to speak, and when you have, perennial MVP candidate in the other league, in the other borough, Mr. Aaron Judge, and now he's hitting alongside Juan Soto, protecting Soto in the lineup, and Soto's definitely doing his thing as well, it's easy to get overlooked and overshadowed. I think what I find so interesting about the build-up to that moment was that it was well documented that going into that at-bat, this could literally be the final at-bat of Pete Alonso's Met career. Francisco Lindor, got to give him credit. He has been playing hurt. He has been playing at a very high level. And if Mark Vientos gets going and if Francisco Alvarez gets going, this Met team is going to be a tough out for everyone, because the scariest thing about this team is that they truly believe in themselves. They're going into this Philly series feeling very confident. And I did say off air to you, I posted my picks on IG, that I felt the Mets were going to qualify for the National League Championship Series before meeting their demise against the Los Angeles Dodgers. But I must say this, in our group thread on the podcast, when you hit us with that info about since 1981, which was my birth year, that every team that has beaten the Milwaukee Brewers in the playoffs either won the World Series or participated in it, if you're a Met fan, you got to be feeling pretty friggin' good if you know about that stat.
Yeah, dude, that was an amazing stat when I saw that. And I'm like, hey, if I'm a Brewers fan, I guess, does that make me feel good? But I think that, there's two teams, or actually I'm going to say three teams. There's three teams in Major League Baseball that I think are feeling really good about themselves going into the NLDS and ALDS, and that being the New York Mets. You said it. That could have easily been Pete Alonso's last at-bat as a New York Met, but maybe that was the signature moment that team has been looking for such a long time. You had Francisco Lindor, who's in the MVP running, should finish second, might finish third behind Shohei and Bryce Harper. And then you look at Pete Alonso going out there down to their final out, and he sends that monster right over right field, and that crowd just, it was moments like that where it reminded me of last year when we were down 3-2 to the Astros, and then Adolis came through for us. It was that kind of moment, and that's what it felt like to me, is what it felt like last year for my Rangers when we had that big moment for us that got us going, and we just never looked back after that. So, if I'm a Phillies fan, I don't feel comfortable at this. I don't feel comfortable about this at all. And if I'm a Mets fan, enjoy the ride. Enjoy the ride, because no one, and I do mean no one, had you guys in the playoffs this year. Absolutely no one. I know you and I didn't. Dorney probably did. But, the Phillies right now, I think they need to be sure to come out and not take this team for granted, because we have seen them do it year in and year out, where they take a team for granted and then they don't go to the World Series. And this is probably that series that if they come out and just like, whatever, then they're going to lose. And then the other two teams are both from the American League, and they're both from the AL Central, and that being the Tigers and the Royals. No one thought the Tigers were going to make it. I thought the Royals were going to be a tough out because of their pitching, but the Tigers with Skubal have been phenomenal. And the way they're doing it just by hitting the ball and getting on base. They're not trying to look for the power numbers. They're not trying to get doubles. They're doing it just getting singles. And, that shows that it wins in this league. And with the Royals, they're doing it with pitching. They're doing it with Bobby Witt. I'm excited about this Royals-Yankees series, because a lot of people are saying that, this is going to be the series where we find out who the true MVP is between Judge and Bobby Witt. I mean, hands down, I think it's Aaron Judge. I don't even know why we're having that conversation. But I think this Royals team with their pitching, with Seth Lugo and with Cole Reagans, I think they can go into New York and steal a game. I really look at this Royals team as a team that feels very good about themselves, feels very good about their pitching, and we saw how they slowed down Baltimore in both games, and that's no easy task for any team. And I see the same thing with the Tigers, where they are relying heavy on their pitching, where the games against the Guardians, we're probably going to look at 1-0, 2-1 type of games throughout that whole series, where, hey, the Tigers this last 2 months have been playing some of the best baseball. And it's just two teams that would not surprise me if we're seeing the two of them face off against each other in the ALCS. I'm still taking the Yankees to win that series. I'm still taking the Guardians, but they're just two teams. These are three teams that you cannot sleep on, that being the Royals, the Tigers, and then the Mets over in the National League.
Yeah, and what's interesting about this second round is that the best series of the entire playoffs might be going on right now between the Los Angeles Dodgers and the San Diego Padres. Both rosters are very, very talented. I will say this. I like the challenge of the Royals. You mentioned their pitching staff. It's a challenge for the likes of Garrett Cole, Carlos Rodon, as well as Luis Gil to, at minimum, match what likely Cy Young American League winner will be, Mr. Lugo. You have Reagans.
No, he's not winning the Cy Young. If Skubal, the Triple Crown winner, doesn't win it, then baseball is a joke. Seth Lugo should be second, yes, but no, I think that Cy Young is won by Skubal without hands down.
Having said that, it's going to be interesting because, you mentioned Bobby Witt, you mentioned what he brought. I'm expecting Salvador Perez to turn back the clock and have a very big series as well. The Yankees, you know what you're going to get with Soto. You know what you're going to get with Judge. But a big thing that I think the Yankees have to do, because I do think we finally figured out the ninth inning, thankfully, is that the Yankees are going to have to get that third man. Is it going to be Austin Wells? Is it going to be Anthony Volpe? Is it going to be a surprise from maybe a Gleyber Torres? Or will the rookie Ben Rice, who got sent back to AAA to kind of fine-tune his game, Rizzo gets hurt, he gets a grand opportunity. And, with that short porch in right field, a lefty like Rice could surprise some people, and he might be, a rookie hero a la a Ricky Leday back in the late 90s during our dynasty years. So it's definitely going to be exciting. As the Mets go, I think they are very comfortable playing against the Phillies from the familiarity standpoint. So I don't believe there'll be an overlook on Phillies' part. They just might lose because I think the Mets are very ready for them. I've said it on many a show. Going back to June, the Mets pitching staff has been among the best in Major League Baseball, and Edwin Diaz has been locked in his role, whether it be coming into a tied game or coming in to shut the door and get the elusive save. The Astros getting beat was a true shocker. I like what the Tigers are doing, but I think their story ends against the Guardians. And I will say this, the Padres and the Dodgers are going to fight to the death. And although the Dodgers are supposed to be the world champions this year, I think that series goes 5, and it will be time to sweat for each team. The proximity of the rivalry is like right in front of each other. So it's going to be an exciting remaining playoffs. The divisional series is upon us. and then that leads us into the championship series. But going in, I did have the Guardians and Yankees. I did have the Mets and the Dodgers, but I certainly did not have Houston, nor I did not have Houston getting beaten round one, nor the Orioles getting beaten round one. The Orioles are the biggest disappointment of this playoffs because of the fact that after getting their ass whipped by your Rangers, I think most people had higher expectations that they got that first-year jitter out of the way, and then they go in and get clobbered. Not clobbered, but just get outclassed by a Royals team. It's a tall task to have to win twice in somebody else's house, or even if there's a third game. That's why what the Mets did, what the Royals did, what the Tigers did, deserves so much friggin' praise. But this is going to be very exciting. One of the more exciting playoffs in recent memory because of the fact that you have no 100-win teams, and the parity is just so evident.
Yeah, man, and it's crazy because the Astros were my World Series pick for the American League, and
which is a good pick every year, basically.
Yeah, and I never never thought that they were going to lose that game, but hey, they did. The Tigers showed they're here, and yeah, I agree with you. I think their time has come to an end. I wouldn't shock me entirely for them to win the series, but I just think Cleveland is a much better team. They have phenomenal pitching, and then for Baltimore, I mean, to lose 4 consecutive home games in 2 consecutive years, it's unheard of. And when you're supposed to be the team that, coming off, 107 wins last year, was supposed to sweep the Rangers to get beat, and then fast forward to this year, underachieve, go into the playoffs, and really don't have the bats showing up. I mean, what needs to be done? You went out and traded for Corbin Burns in the offseason to come solidify that pitching staff, and he doesn't even show up.
Yeah, the Brewers actually got further than the Orioles because they at least won the playoff game.
So to me, this Baltimore team, while they do have a lot of young talent, what all do they need to do going into next year? What is the change that needs to be made?
I'll tell you what I would do. I would approach the Houston Astros. I would approach the Athletics. I would approach the White Sox, and I would shake the tree and be like, hey, Houston, you got 2 closers, but Presley's your 8th inning man. What can we offer you to bring him into the fold? Because I myself thought that you would have seen Presley follow A.J. Hinch to Detroit, so I was a little surprised that Detroit didn't make a deal to bring him in. The irony of A.J. Hinch beating his former team, that's pretty wild. The Brewers, I'm going to say this. It's not the reason they lost the game, but it's bad karma when your pitcher is mowing down Met after Met and you pull him unceremoniously. I think the Brewers made a mistake there.
Yeah, definitely agree on that one. Yeah, man, this is, it's fun.
That was an analytic-driven thing, Zap, because as you know as well as I do, the third time around the lineup, the averages go up, but you got to believe in the people that get you there. And I think, don't get me wrong, Milwaukee Penn did a great job until the last inning, but just wasn't the best message to send to your starting pitcher, who was really, really performing.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I'm really excited to see this Padres-Dodgers series. And the craziest thing about everything is we finally get to see Shohei Ohtani in the playoffs. This guy's been in the league now 7 years, and because he played for one of the worst franchises in MLB baseball, we never got blessed with his presence. So we finally get to see, does his regular season success carry over into the playoffs? Does this guy actually have that clutch gene? That's what I'm excited to see. Will he be able to go out there? I mean, we saw the Padres. They lost Joe Musgrave for the season as he suffered an UCL injury. Is going to have Tommy John surgery. That is a huge loss for the Padres, a huge loss. And, that's the kind of thing where we need to see Shohei, Mr. 50-50, almost 60-60, come out and be that MVP, be that $700 million man that you got paid to be. And you better show up, man, because if you're just a regular season guy, he's going to lose some respect. Not a lot, but he's going to lose some. He's going to lose that clutch gene that he supposedly has. So
Aaron Judge also has a lot to prove too, because as great as Aaron Judge has been in the regular season, He has had some struggles, particularly in series against the Astros. Obviously, you don't have to worry about that this year. But this is a big series for Aaron Judge to certify himself as the face of baseball, or at least one of the two faces, because I believe that Mr. Judge and Mr. Ohtani at this juncture of their careers are basically interchangeable. And then right behind them, you have the likes of a Juan Soto, a Bobby Witt Jr., and although he is injured right now, but definitely not forgotten on this show, Ronald Acuna Jr., who is one of the true greats. And then you have other great players, such as the Bryce Harpers of the world. And even though he had something that shamed his early legacy that he could still work on and work his way out of course, the ever so talented Fernando Tatis Jr. So it's going to be amazing. These playoffs are star-studded. You make a great point about how Ohtani is getting his first taste of the postseason, and big expectations because, the money that those Dodgers have spent is usually more than what most nations would spend on wars. So it is pretty substantial when you look at it from that lens. And, one last thing too, Juan Soto, how he performs in these playoffs is going to be a huge determining factor. And if he's truly gonna warrant that 600 figure. Some Yankee fans have stated that if he makes more than Judge, it's not a good look for the locker room, and I couldn't disagree more because it reminds me of when the New York Yankees took on the mammoth contract of Alex Rodriguez, and also, upped the money even more when A-Rod opted out. And although A-Rod is a mixed bag, winning multiple MVPs with the Yankees, his defining moment in the pinstripes was actually in the ALCS when he came through against the Angels when they were actually a good organization. So a lot to be decided. The team in Queens is definitely a player for Juan Soto, and so is the team in LA, and so is the team in Philly. So it's going to be very interesting. Very interesting to see how this goes.
And the last point about Juan Soto, I don't think Yankee fans should be upset whatsoever if he gets more money than Judge for one very big reason.
Age, baby.
He's only 25, 26 years old. The kid is a special kid. And not only that, they complement each other like none other. That goes without saying. Having them at 2-3, whichever way, they really complement each other. And I don't think we're going to see something like that again for a while. If we see Soto go to Philly, go up to Queens, go down to wherever. And remember one thing, we're talking about him making his playoff appearance with the Yankees. The kid's played in the World Series. He played phenomenally in the World Series for the Nationals when he was young. This is when he was, 18 years old, 19 years old?
Yeah, very young fellow when the Nationals had that improbable run. And, people shouldn't be surprised at this juncture with these wild cards doing what they do, because you saw it with the Diamondbacks and the Rangers last year in the World Series. You saw it with the Philadelphia Phillies, being the kryptonite for the Atlanta Braves. You saw it with that, that Nationals team that knocked off the Houston Astros. This has been an ever-growing theme where it only happened once in a while, and now it seems to happen almost every postseason, where the MLB playoffs are starting to be as unpredictable as the Stanley Cup playoffs. So
you said it best. You said it best, and it's that one word that starts with a P: parity.
Parity.
It exists in Major League Baseball. It exists, and it heavier than ever.
Parity for sure. I wanted to give a heartfelt shout out to the face of the New York Giants fan base, Mr. Joe Ruback, LPG, who unfortunately lost his brother this past week. So I just want to say that I speak on behalf of all of us here at our show. Heartfelt condolences to you, Joe. We keep your family in our prayers as you go through a difficult time. And, we lost some legends. I do want to touch on it quickly. But, John Amos was lost months and months earlier. It was a little odd how the family kept it so under wraps, where most of the public, myself included, was not truly aware of that. And alongside him on the silver screen in one of the best game changers in terms of comedy, talking about Coming to America, Mr. James Earl Jones also passed away not too long ago. So shouts out to those two. And I did do a short video each on Dikembe Mutombo as well as Pete Rose. We know all about the Hall of Hypocrisy, and we will probably be on this show until you reach your destination if we go all the way in on Rose. But all I'm going to say is it's shameful on too many levels that Major League Baseball plays the moral police when they want to do it through convenience.
And it pains me to say this, but I did a little more digging on that, and it looks like Pete Rose will never be inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame because he agreed to it.
He did agree to it, Zappy. You are correct. Not to mention I'm not condoning this. Let me make this clear. I'm not condoning a 32-year-old man or a 33-year-old man, whatever have you, dating a 16-year-old. But I do want to say that the world was a much different place 50-something years ago. I just want to make that clear. I'm still not condoning it. I'm just saying that the world was a much different place during that time. Oddly enough, Pete Rose is inducted in the WWE Hall of Fame. It was almost a yearly occurrence where Kane would choke slam Pete. So for a lot of people, you could ask 100 people what they think about Pete Rose, say if they met him. And the craziest caveat to that is 50 would probably say he's the best guy in the world, and 50 would say, he's terrible. So, a very complicated man with a very complicated legacy. As Dikembe Mutombo goes, I said it on my most recent shows, a couple of shows ago, that similar to Kobe Bryant, who was a true philanthropist, losing Mutombo is bigger for the world than it is even for basketball. I made a point about how you take a guy like the late, great Bill Russell, who played in an era where the league was not all that marketable or broad-streamed yet, because this is the 60s. Finals MVPs didn't even exist back then, because if they did, Russell might be leading the way in that metric. But Mutombo, in my lifetime, in my opinion, was truly the first player that was marketable, I should say, because of his defensive prowess. And I think he opened up the lane for other great defenders who made it cool to be just strictly a defender, whether it's a modern guy like a Draymond Green, or whether it's contemporaries of Mutombo, like a Ben Wallace later in Mutombo's career, or even a Dennis Rodman, who helped the Chicago Bulls to their second three-peat. So what he did for the world in terms of his many humanitarian endeavors just scratches the surface on the kind of human being that Dikembe Mutombo was. And once again, as I speak for the entire panel, to the Rose family, as well as to the Mutombo family, you guys will be missed, and you did make an impact, and you will not be forgotten.
Well said, sir. Well said.
Zappy, this was an excellent job, excellent show. And I'm digging this background. I'm a little under the weather. That's why I preferred to have my camera off, and you yourself are traveling to see your buddy Art. So obviously it wouldn't be in the safest interest for you to put your camera on. But excellent show as always, buddy. And shouts out to all of our people in North Carolina, Mr. Paul, as well as our other co-host, Mr. Idris Salam. I just want to let you guys know that you are all in our thoughts and prayers. And I know you guys are going to be just fine, but I myself am slightly ashamed that things have been as tough as they are in an American city. I'm sorry, but we got to do better.
Oh, yeah. And, last thing, everyone that tunes in, if you're one of those people hoarding, stop it. Stop. Those are not things that are going to impact us whatsoever. Toilet paper is not an import from overseas. We'll be fine in that regard. Think about it more of like bananas. That's something you should probably worry about. But the fact that people are going out there and hoarding things again, making it look like COVID all over again, it's like, come on, man. Like, that's the stuff that's not even going to be impacted.
It's embarrassing,
Zappy, it is.
Because one thing about us, I love my country. I love my military, for better or for worse. I'm American through and through, but something that definitely disappoints me about the culture of our country is that we are a country of excess. And when it comes to the everyday things and things that people need, we can be really ruthlessly selfish. And I stand and piggyback off of your point, which is a great one.
Richie, it's been a pleasure, man. Hey, I'm excited about this weekend. I hope, I pray. I mean, we have the two winningest football programs in the Super Bowl era. Dallas has the most wins. Pittsburgh's in second. We have two teams that have been to 8 Super Bowls and 9 Super Bowls respectively. We have a lot going on Sunday night, and Dallas has the series lead by 1 game. So Pittsburgh is fighting to even up the series. I want to see us get a 2-game lead. Don't know if it's going to happen. Don't have the best feeling about it. NLDS starts tomorrow. Another great thing about National League Division and American League Division Series is I'm excited to see Kodai Senga make his first start of his playoff career. Yamamoto, will he play? I mean, so much thing. The international players, everything. NBA preseason starts next week. Another thing to be looking forward to. NHL is getting ready to kick off in a couple of days. I love it. College football off and running. My gosh, buddy, it is the best time of the year.
And as far as the NHL goes, short and sweet, the Rangers have to be better with dealing with the forecheck, because as much as I love my team, Panarin and some of the other notable Rangers came up ever so small, and we were so damn close to winning it all. And, your stars were really close too, so that would be cool if our two respective NHL teams could get over the hump. And obviously my beloved New York Knicks are most definitely going to be a very interesting story to follow all year long, making the huge trade, sending Dante DiVincenzo and Julius Randle to Minnesota in exchange for Karl Anthony Towns. I love DiVincenzo. I appreciate what Randle did for the organization, but I am truly miffed at some of the negative energy that these Knicks fans are bringing, mainly over an emotional attachment to the Nova connection. I understand that would have been beautiful to see, but when you have an opportunity to get a player that can score at the frequency of Karl Anthony Towns, and definitely a defensive upgrade, because when you think about the Van damage that Jason Tatum, Joel Embiid, Turner of the Pacers, Adebayo, and other big men can be doing to New York's front court, because as much as I like Julius Randle, he was not much of a defender. And listen, I love Dante DiVincenzo, but Dante DiVincenzo was also not a great defender. You're picking up a more complete player and a bona fide number 2 to Jalen Brunson's number 1, and it puts guys like OG Anunoby, Josh Hart, Mikal Bridges, among others, in a place where they know their role and they don't have to overexert their role. And as long as Thibodeau takes care of the minutes, I think the New York Knickerbockers definitely have a chance to win their first NBA title since 1973.
Quick question for you. I know we haven't done much of an NBA preview. What's your early finals prediction?
My early finals prediction, that's a great, great question, Zappy. I'm going to go, for the sake of pure fun, with the New York Knicks taking on the Minnesota Timberwolves, the two teams that made the big deal in the offseason.
Huh. I like that.
I mean, how far out is it really? Both, one team was a game shy of the conference finals and the other team made the conference finals. Now, of course, popular picks will be a Denver or a Boston, but I think this is the year that the Knicks get over the hump against the Boston Celtics. And as far as the Timberwolves go, I might be reaching just a little, but I believe that by getting Randle in there and Dante DiVincenzo, I think that now it's time for Ant-Man to truly be the man. And after being humbled quite a bit in that conference finals, I think this is a year that Ant takes his game to another level. You can obviously not sleep on the Dallas Mavericks with the dynamic duo of Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving. The NBA is also going to be really spectacular this year. It's going to be fun. And I got news for you, man. Philly improved their roster immensely. I expect another battle between the Knicks and Philly. While I don't think Indiana, player for player, has the talent of the Knicks, the Celtics, or the Sixers, or even the Bucks for that matter, what they do have is a great coach in Rick Carlisle. So it's going to be a really, really fun season coming up.
Yeah. And, you mentioned Dallas. Don't forget the addition of Klay Thompson. I think is something good for both sides of that one. I actually have Dallas going back to the finals. I like what they did by acquiring Klay. I love the fact that Kyrie and Luka now have themselves another offseason together. I think they're only going to be better together.
You know what, Zap? I'm going to come off my pick. I'm going to come off my pick now that I think about it, because I didn't factor in Klay Thompson. Knicks, Mavericks, Brunson against his old squad.
See, I'm going Mavericks, and I'm going Knicks in the Eastern Conference Finals against your big rivals in Philly, but I think Philly pulls it off. I'm going with a Philly-Dallas NBA Finals.
Going to be a lot of fun, Zappy. I look forward to seeing how it all plays out. And Joel Embiid has already made it clear that he is going to be buying into the theory of rest minutes because of so much that his body has went through in the last year or two. This was cool. We did half of an NBA, an NFL preview show, and we had so much to talk about that we were able to knock out MLB out of the park, no pun intended, NHL, and the NBA. Good time to be a sports fan, and even better time to follow the show. So if you haven't already, please make it a point, like and subscribe to the channel, the Richie Hicks Jr. Sports Podcast on YouTube. I'm going to let my man Zappy concentrate on driving. Enjoy your time with Art. Give him my regards, Zap. And congratulations on your son's recent football success. I think it's great.
Woo!
Yeah.
Mr. Josh Allen out there. That's what he was. Oh, what a day. 5 for 5 on a game-winning drive. I love it.
Yeah, proud of your son. So next time you speak to him, let him know that I've been watching, and I am too one of his fans. Until next time, he is Zappy. I am Richie, and we will be back with announcements to come for our next show. Thank you for spending a small part of your Friday with us. Have a great night, everyone.
Good night, y'all.